All right, let's talk about one of the most recognizable buildings on the entire planet, Barcelona's Sagrada Família. It's a masterpiece, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and, get this, it's been under construction for over 140 years. Yeah, so today we're going to unpack exactly why.
I mean, that's the question on everyone's mind, right? We build these massive skyscrapers in like a couple of years. So why is this absolute wonder of architecture still not finished? Well, the answer. It's a wild mix of incredible ambition, deep faith, a whole lot of money, and even some conflict.
And it all kicks off right here, 1882. No, that is not a typo. 1882. To put that in perspective, this was when Thomas Edison was still tinkering with light bulbs. The Eiffel Tower hadn't even been thought of yet. This insane time frame, that's our first big clue.
Okay, so part one of our answer really comes down to one person's vision, a vision so huge it was almost impossible. You see, the story of the Sagrada Família is, in so many ways, the story of its legendary architect, the one and only Antoni Gaudí. And here's the wild part. It wasn't even his project at the start. It began as a pretty standard, neo-Gothic church. But then, just 1 year in, a 31-year-old Gaudí takes over, and he basically just throws the original plan straight out the window. He then spent the rest of his life, we're talking over 40 years, completely reinventing the whole thing. And when I say he reinvented it, I mean it was radical. He tossed out all that conventional neo-Gothic stuff and replaced it with a style inspired by nature. For Gaudí, who was deeply religious, nature was God's own architecture. So forget straight lines. He imagined a literal forest made of stone, with columns that looked like trees reaching up to the ceiling. He wasn't just building a church, he was trying to build a sermon in stone, a physical representation of creation itself. Gaudí's whole philosophy on how long this would take is perfectly summed up by something he used to say. Whenever people asked him about the slow pace, he'd apparently just reply, "My client is not in a hurry." And by client, he meant God. That really set the tone for a project that wasn't measured in years, but in generations. And get this, another big clue is hidden right there in the church's full name. It's officially the Expiatory Temple of the Holy Family. That word expiatory is the key. It means the whole project was meant to be paid for by acts of atonement, basically through private donations from believers. And that leads us straight to the second major reason this has taken so long. Okay, so Gaudí has this massive vision. But a vision like that needs an economic engine just as big to power it. And that's because this building isn't just an architectural marvel, it's a financial one too. I mean, how on earth do you fund something this massive for over 140 years? The answer is just as unique as the building. Right from the get-go, the Sagrada Família has been paid for almost entirely by private money. It started with donations from religious folks, but today, the main funders are people just like you, the millions of tourists who walk through its doors every year. It's kind of like a revolutionary modern-day version of crowdsourcing a cathedral. And this number right here, it says everything. Zero. A big, fat zero. That's the amount of direct funding from the Spanish government or the city of Barcelona for the actual construction. This financial independence is a huge part of its identity, but it also means the speed of construction is completely dependent on how much money it brings in. Yep, 100% of its money comes from these private sources. So when you buy a ticket to go see it, you're not just a tourist. You are literally helping to build it. You're part of the story. And look at this. More than half of every dollar they make goes right back into construction. The rest keeps the lights on, covers operations, and pays the city. This was part of a deal they made after, get this, they discovered the church had been under construction for over 130 years without an official building permit. Can you believe that? In 2023 alone, more than 4.7 million people walked through those doors. 4.7 million. That unbelievable stream of visitors has turned this whole thing into a self-funding machine. It's actually allowed the work to speed up in recent decades, way faster than Gaudí could have ever dreamed of. But, it's not that simple. Even with a genius vision and a ton of money coming in, a story this long is going to have some major twists. And the final piece of our puzzle, it's all about the devastating setbacks and the incredible technology that's finally pushing this project over the finish line.
And the challenges have been huge. The absolute worst was back in 1936. A fire during the Spanish Civil War completely destroyed Gaudi's workshop, along with most of his incredibly detailed models and plans. Architects literally spent decades just trying to piece his vision back together from the ashes. And then, much more recently, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, shutting down tourism, which cut off its money supply and brought construction to a dead stop.
But on the flip side, technology has been an absolute game changer. What used to be carved by hand, piece by agonizing piece, is now cut with incredible precision by computer-controlled machines. And today's architects? They use advanced 3D modeling to bring Gaudi's super complex geometric shapes to life. That's something that was almost impossible to do after his original models were lost in the fire.
So what's actually left to do? Well, the big goals are finishing all 18 of the symbolic towers. And then there's the final, massive challenge, the main entrance, the glory facade. This is still super controversial, because to build it the way Gaudí wanted, they might have to tear down nearby apartment buildings.
And the crown jewel of the entire thing will be the central tower of Jesus Christ. It's going to stand at 172.5 meters tall. But here's a cool detail. Gaudí intentionally designed it to be just a little bit shorter than Barcelona's Montjuïc Hill. Why? Because he truly believed that nothing man-made should ever be taller than God's creation. Once it's done, though, it will make the Sagrada Família the tallest church on earth. You know, the original goal was to get the main structure finished by 2026. That would have been the 100-year anniversary of Gaudí's death. But yeah, the pandemic really threw a wrench in those plans. So now, the best guess is that the main architectural work will be done sometime in the mid-2030s.
And all of this leads to a really interesting final thought. For, generations now, the identity of the Sagrada Família has been all about the cranes, the scaffolding. Its magic is tied up in the fact that it's always being built. So what happens when that last stone is finally put in place? Is something essential lost? Will the world's most famous construction site lose a bit of its soul once it's finally finished?